Hey, what's up, guys? This is Derrick. Welcome back. I'm back. I didn't really go anywhere. I did go somewhere. I'm sorry. Um, if you noticed, the last episode of this podcast that was posted here was back in, I think it's August of 2025. I'm not looking at the calendar right now, but I've been doing things exclusively on Patreon since then. I've built up a strong backlog of content over there on Patreon, and I'm toying with the idea of releasing some of it here. But to kind of test the waters, what I'm going to be doing is giving you guys a weekly show with excerpts from other shows that I do exclusively on Patreon. So what you're going to hear today is a little bit of the week in gaming, and then a little small excerpt of the last word with Derrick Lamon, which both of those shows you used to get here on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. Now they are exclusive to the Patreon. Um, I will tell you this: those shows release on Saturday and Sunday afternoons for paid subscribers. They obviously get first access, but then they go to free patrons on Tuesdays and Wednesdays following their initial release. So you still can gain access to those episodes. You would get those two episodes as well as my weekly newsletter. I'm now giving you the opportunity to hear a little bit of this, and we'll continue this, and maybe I'll start placing some old content here as well, archive things and stuff like that. But I hope that you will come on over to the Patreon and subscribe to hear some of the other things that I've been working on. I've been working with some other people, keeping it in the family, and I think that I've got a nice little core. And I just launched a new piece of content on our highest tier, where we play a little more adult themed games, not like crazy porn or nothing like that. But one of the games that I'm about to play, that I'm actually playing right now, is Night Trap, a very classic game that originally released for the Sega CD, but then went to the PlayStation. It might be on Switch too. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so I'm gonna be trying some things out here, and if you guys are interested, these things will continue. If not, no big deal. But maybe it'll drive you to come on over and check out the Patreon. That is patreon.com/the Derrick Lamont Experience. Of course, that link will be here in the episode details. Without further ado, here's the show. Their console alive. Let's not sit here and lie. The Microsoft ports over to PlayStation definitely helped them out. But at the same time, they were still selling consoles before Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond said it's just 4 games at the top of 2024. They've sold, I think, 95 million PlayStation 5s. The PlayStation 5 Pro is selling at the same pace that the PlayStation 4 Pro was, but it's an improvement because of the cost. The PlayStation 4 Pro launched at $399, aka $400. The PlayStation 5 Pro launched at $700. There's a huge difference. So, for me, I'm sorry, you guys may not like it. Exclusives are the lifeblood of the console. Because before, the first time I played Gears and all that stuff, when I had my 360, I'm not going to lie, I played Call of Duty and I played a Madden, 2K, NHL, all that stuff. Everything else I generally played on PlayStation. There were a few games I still played on the Xbox. Or generally, 2K, I don't know if I mentioned that. Generally, the stuff I really gave a fuck about, that was played on PlayStation. Grand Theft Auto, Sony first party titles, Final Fantasy games. Once they left the Nintendo console with the development of Final Fantasy VII, I only played Final Fantasy titles on the PlayStation. No, I take that back. Final Fantasy 13 I did actually have on the Xbox. But I played the bulk of my single player titles on the PlayStation. The Xbox was like the multiplayer box. I played online Call of Duty, online Madden, online college football, 2K, NBA Live, all that stuff. MLB The Show, of course, was exclusive to PlayStation at the time. But I didn't get into... I didn't play Gears or Forza or Halo and other stuff until I got my Xbox One. And then I really fell in love with my Xbox One, despite the fact that they didn't have a lot of titles. I still played my sports titles, Madden, 2K, NHL. All of those were still played on the Xbox. And then I sprinkled in, okay, well, I like this Gears of War remastered. Then they gave me the original Gears plus Gears of Judgment. I was like, oh, let me go through these shits. All that stuff. I loved all of that. I fell in love with my Xbox during the Xbox One generation. I'm not gonna lie. I played a ton of fucking Project Gotham through during the Xbox 360 generation. There's nothing wrong with looking at a certain console like, hey, this is where I'm gonna live for these type of games. I think this is the right move for PlayStation. I would say it would be the same thing for Microsoft if they did not have a problem selling consoles. They acquired all that IP with those acquisitions, and they have to. Those investors are looking for ROI, return on their investment. So I get why they're doing it. At this point, the cat is out the bag. If you guys really think that they're going back to exclusives over at Xbox as well, I think you're sadly mistaken. I don't think, and they're like, they're going to get rid of Game Pass. That would be the worst thing for them to do. That would be the worst thing. You've conditioned your ecosystem to not have to pay full price for a game, but to subscribe to a service to play the game. If you take away Game Pass, that would be the true end of Xbox. Because Game Pass is the identity of the brand at this point. And that's why Microsoft, they just can't go back like that. They just can't go back like that. I'm sorry. Not happening. So, Mike Ibarra, who was formerly at Xbox and left, and then went over to Activision, and then when Microsoft acquired them, he left there too. Mike Ibarra chimed in days ago before it was confirmed. He says, I wish that wasn't the case, but in many ways, it makes sense if true. They see the last nail in the coffin with Xbox and the churn there, hope it turns around. Most important, they view Valve as a major new competitor. Valve will enter the living room and console market with the Steam machine and likely third-party variants of it all running on Steam OS. Valve doesn't make any mistakes, and Sony is smart to realize that. Shipping good exclusive games matters. It's not rocket science. Here's my thing, and Mike Ibarra is 100% right, and he always is. My question is, with this out there, what is does Valve, if they have like, because this PC console, like living room PC is what the term is that most people are calling them now, right? So now Valve is in your living room with the Steam machine. And for the last year and a half, we've been hearing the next Xbox will have integrated PC. It'll have the Steam store, the Epic Game Store, all this stuff. Does Valve try to stop that? Because remember, I said I was very bold in saying, not even bold. I told you, if I'm Sony, there's no way I'm letting Microsoft put out a console/hybrid PC where they can play my IP. I would find a way to block this. That was my stance. And they went back to console exclusivity on first party single player titles. I'm not saying that this is a direct result of that. Somewhat. The PC sales weren't great either. Let's be very clear about that. The PC sales were not great either. But I think it's a little bit of each. A little column A, a little column B. Follow me now. But at this point now, we've heard this. Well, now the Steam machine is an actual thing. It's still supposed to come out at some point this year. So if you're Valve, do you fucking allow them to pull this shit? Like, oh, we're just going to go ahead and put your storefront on our new console. Now, they still have to break bread with them. They would still have to give them a percentage because it would be bought through their store. But if you see, that's the thing. Letting somebody have access, they're like, oh well, they're letting them have access to their Steam library, and that's all fine and good. But at the same time, just like it would have devalued the PlayStation 5, it can devalue the Steam machine at this point. Because we've heard that this thing is going to be a premium tier product and it's going to come with a premium price. If Steam blocks this, that situation is dead. That situation is dead. And then they have to come to market with a standard console, just like Sony will next generation. That whole PC console hybrid, it would put it to bed. It would totally put it to bed, because I know the Steam machine isn't going to be cheap. We've already got remnants of that, but I think it'll be less. I think it'll be better on the cost end than this product that Microsoft is supposed to unleash on us. This is all very, very interesting. So we're all paying attention. We're all reading the tea leaves. But I'm telling you, man, it is getting good. It is getting really, really good. Fucking crazy, man. Fucking crazy. I knew at some point. No, I'm not gonna say I knew. But I told you guys. I said, hey, if I'm PlayStation, there's no way I'm allowing this. And you can't delist the games, but you have to put something like the best thing that they could do, because you really don't. Do you need a dev kit at this point? Because you could just develop for PC. This is interesting. Like Sony could put some sort of code in or something like that, but I don't know. I don't know. It feels like this may be their way to stop it. And they'll be like, I still got your games. You're not going to get Wolverine. You're not going to get Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. So yeah, you've got Uncharted, the Lost Legacy, Legacy of Thieves collection. You've got The Last of Us 1 and 2. True indeed. You've got God of War. You've got God of War Ragnarok. You do have some amazing games over there already. But you're not going to get Soros. You're not going to get Wolverine. You're not going to get Ghost of Yotei. But fret not, I'm telling you, at some point, there's going to be something that arises that, like, here's the thing. Leaks are an issue. And I think that there's no way that they showed us this and this wasn't in R&D for a couple of years. So Valve was already working on this thing. But Sony hears those whispers just like we do. And I'm sure they were having conversations in these these earning calls and investor meetings, like, is it even worth it to port these titles to PC? And number two, how is this going to affect our console sales? But again, like I said, they hear everything. So when people are like, I don't need a PlayStation 5, I'll just buy a PC. Their games are going to come to PC anyway. They're in the board. The first time they heard it, they're like, nah, they're full of shit. Second time, they keep saying this is crazy. Third and fourth time, they're like, okay, they keep saying this shit. What are we doing? What are we doing? And then also they're hearing us have these conversations about how, well, how good is the game going to run? How good is GTA 6 going to run on the standard PlayStation 5 versus the PlayStation 5 Pro? How good is GTA 6 realistically going to run on the Xbox Series S versus the Xbox Series X? Because there's no parity. Microsoft will not allow you to release a title on on the Xbox Series X and not release it on the S. So they have a no parity rule. And they hear us having these conversations. They expect to sell a lot of PlayStation 5s with the launch of Grand Theft Auto 6. This is destroying music. This is destroying music. Everybody, I often say this to people. We cannot all be rappers. Some of us have to be consumers. Unfortunately, the barrier of entry in hip-hop is so low because you had the SoundCloud era, and now you don't need a label. I get it. Labels rob a bunch of artists. They have since the dawn of time. Since music was recorded and distributed. They have since the dawn of time. 80% labels are evil. 20% they're a necessary evil. Because a label would not just sign any old idiot off the street. It had to make sense. You had to be moldable. You had to at least look like you were talented. You had to have some talent. And you better goddamn be able to sell some records. And that doesn't happen anymore. Now the A&Rs at the labels that still exist, they're checking your Instagram to see how many followers you've got. They're checking your YouTube to see how many views you've got. Impressions. They're checking social media impressions. Are you hot on Twitter? What's going on? Do you have a song that's bubbling on TikTok? The A&Rs don't do what they used to do. A&R stands for Artists and Repertoire. And they used to help build an artist before they actually put a record out. They'll be in the studio recording for sure. They were taking, if you were a singer, you still took vocal lessons. Like, you got media training. All of that. The label invested in you. The labels don't do that anymore. An A&R now is going on YouTube and TikTok to hear what the hot new sound is and checking, oh, this person sounds dope. Let me Google search them. Oh, they've got an Instagram. Let me see how many followers they have on Instagram. That's what A&Rs are doing now. They are robbing everyone of what it means to be a true A&R. So if the A&Rs of the label aren't adhering to what makes this thing of ours great, then of course these kids aren't going to adhere to what makes this thing of ours great. And that leads me back to my point. These kids think holding a double cup with whatever in it, having a bust down watch and a bust down bracelet equates to being a dope rapper. And that's not what it is. And that is my biggest problem with this whole situation. We fundamentally have an issue where kids today do not understand rap. They probably don't even know how to count bars. SoundCloud took a lot of kids out the ghetto, and I'm thankful for that. But how many of them will still be around and won't end up back in the ghetto? Because I got to go drive around in that Lambo truck. I got to be lit. I got to be that nigga. I got to be seen. You go back to the hood, you fuck around, get killed because there's jealousy still there. Or you got to have a gun, so somebody gets killed, you end up in jail or accessory to murder. Lil Durk is in prison awaiting trial on a murder for hire charge. And I'm not even a Durk fan. I don't think Durk can rap. But he couldn't stay out the hood. Now look at him.